Welcome to Empowered by Iron, the podcast for female strength athletes by female strength athletes. We are your hosts, Dr. Kristen Lander from Fiercely Fuel Nutrition Coaching and Dr. Mary Morton, scientist and weightlifter. Together, we are Empowered by Iron. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Empowered by Iron. Hey, Kristen, how you doing?
So, Mary, I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there.
How's the last couple days been for you?
So I had a stomach virus, like the stomach virus to end all stomach viruses. I think I'm almost officially in a new weight class now.
Hell yeah, that's the way to do it.
So I'm struggle busting today, but we're here. We're gonna make this happen.
We're here.
And my cognitive function does not really bounce back because I haven't really been able to eat much.
This is gonna be super fun.
So you guys are in for a fun ride. I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth. Maybe nothing. Who knows?
This is gonna be great. After you told me yesterday, because apparently Kristen said that the plague, as we call it, was going around the gym. So I was like, oh shit, I don't want to go to the gym and train. So I went to the gym. I picked up a set of our plates.
Yes, she stole our personal kilo plates that we keep there.
Yep, and I brought them to my house and I trained in my garage. And I may never go back to the gym.
I had a feeling.
Oh my god, it was so amazing. I almost cried. I was like blasting Miley Cyrus and just dancing, and like there was no one there to comment on my body or like to take up time, or actually mostly to take up your time while I was trying to take up your time, because that's typically how training goes.
Right. Right.
Anyway, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, I'm alive.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Your body's alive. We're getting your brain there.
My brain. Yeah, I am. I want you guys to know how seriously I take these recording sessions, because I've got some intra-recording carbs with me.
Yeah, that's super important.
My sugar,
and your brain going.
Levels, my brain going. Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be fun.
We're gonna see if it works.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about remote coaching. That's our topic today. So Kristen and I both have had remote coaches basically the entire time that we've been lifting.
Yeah, from after I left CrossFit.
Oh yeah. CrossFit, different ballgame.
Right, but yeah, as a weightlifter and powerlifter.
Yeah.
Remote coaching. That's the way we've done it. Because why?
We live in a place where there are no in-person coaches.
There are no in-person coaches.
Let me say that again. There are no USAW certified in-person coaches.
Right.
There are a lot of people who think that they know things. Like, I was looking at this gym that was near my college.
Yes.
And I went in and I was touring it, and the guy had a level 1 CrossFit certification.
Okay.
And I told him I was a weightlifter, and he goes, cool, yeah, I could totally help you on technique. And I was like, oh, no.
Okay, well, so I will say there are some CrossFit coaches that have done extra training and are pretty good in the Olympic lifts. But I think that he wasn't.
No.
Okay, yeah.
No.
But I do think that like the levels that you're trying to compete at, it is important to have someone who hasn't just like coached a couple people here and there on the Olympic lifts, like have coached a lot of athletes and understand the movements really well and understand the breakdown of the movement, right?
Yes. And I think this is a good way to start off. Remote coaching is not just someone who has a large Instagram following.
Right.
So that's number one. Or even, makes a lot of posts that makes it seem like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
A remote coach should be an in-person coach, be a really good in-person coach, and then also have athletes that are remote.
For sure.
Yeah. Because I think we see a lot of people who are trying to, as Chris and I so kindly refer to, as skip the hard steps. They're just trying to jump into this industry as an expert, whether that means that as a nutrition expert or a strength coach expert.
Right.
And I think you have to be so cautious about these people, because most of them don't have bad intentions,
Oh, for sure. They definitely want to help people.
They want to help people, and they think that the way that they're doing it is going to be the best way, or it's the best way right now. And they're super energetic and they're just so excited to do all these things, but they don't really know what they're talking about.
Well, they don't have the experience, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they've lifted for a couple of years and they know how their body works.
Exactly.
But what works for their body isn't what works for everybody.
Right. And I think that becomes an issue. And then especially when it comes to nutrition, they try to apply what they did because it worked for them to these people who it didn't work for, and you're just spiraling out of control. But in terms of remote coaching, we're talking about actual like lifting coaching.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, don't just fall for the hype.
Yeah, don't just find a remote coach that has a lot of Instagram followers and assume that they must be a good coach.
Exactly. You can go on to USAW, USA Weightlifting, or USAPL or USPA online, all their websites. You can find a club in your area. So that just means a location that has a certified USAW, USAPL, USPA coach on site.
Right.
And you can go there. Now for us, the closest one is like 2 hours away.
Right.
So it's a little different for us, but if you can find someone in your area, that's where you should primarily go. Like, don't try to get a remote coach that's super far away from you that, seems like they've got the hype when you could go 10 minutes down the road to someone who's maybe not as good, but someone who can give you some in-person coaching. If you're brand new, that's what you need.
Yeah, I think that for is in terms of coaching, that if you don't have to hire a remote coach, I think an in-person coach is always going to be better because they're going to make corrections on your technique immediately when they see something happening versus when they have time to respond to a video, and some little nuances that might show up in your lifting they might not see on a video that they would immediately pick out in person.
Yeah.
And so I think if you don't have to have a remote coach, definitely go for in person. If you don't have that as an option, there are tons of really great remote coaches out there. I have loved my remote coaches.
Same.
And you and I have an interesting relationship where, so both of my weightlifting and now my powerlifting coach, and also for you in weightlifting, we have done kind of a hybrid of remote coaching where I used to go, my remote coach was an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
So I would go once a month and get some technique help from him. And that was cool. You go out to Texas
periodically,
every few months, maybe.
Yeah. I'd love to go more, but that's how life goes.
It's expensive.
And I think that speaks to the different levels that you're at, or like,
sure.
I don't want to say your commitment because some people can't necessarily afford that, but if you want to compete at a high level and that's your main goal, you're going to have to figure out how to go see your coach, and not just at meets. You don't want your coach fixing your technique in the back while you're trying to compete. Right. You want to go, stay in the area, go see your coach, go visit your coach, have a few one-on-one sessions every once in a while. But if you're just beginning and you need to find a coach, USAW, USAPL, USPA.com, you can find someone who is certified. Then from there, it's just about communicating with the individual. I remember when I first was looking for a coach, I contacted 3 different people. There were just people that two were in the area. One was far away. And to be fair, I did find this coach off of Instagram and Instagram popularity.
Really?
Kind of. I mean, I had seen her lift. Her technique was impeccable. And I saw that she had athletes. So I was like, well, I mean, I would have rather had a female coach just because I've had experiences with male coaches in the past and I didn't have good experiences.
Okay.
So I wanted to have a female coach. And she was the one that got back to me like immediately. And then she showed me her credentials. She explained how everything works. And I was like, okay, this girl either knows her shit or puts on a really good front.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I found mine. And how did you find, so first your weightlifting coach and then your powerlifting coach?
So Sean, my weightlifting coach, it's a weird, I'm not entirely sure how I found him. It's a long story. I showed up to a weightlifting meet by myself and met this amazing woman in line at weigh-ins. We started talking. She's now one of my closest friends. We immediately hit it off, and we were just talking, and she said, she was like doing the whole nervous talk kind of thing. She had to like sweat out some weight to make weight, or sweat out some water to make weight. And she was just like really nervous. Like, am I going to make weight? I don't know. And so we're chatting, and she was like, so who's your coach? And I was like, I don't have a coach. And she was like, oh, you mean your coach didn't come to the meet? And I was like, no, I don't have a coach. And she was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, you don't have a coach? And I was like, no, this is like my second meet. I don't really know what I'm doing. And she was like, oh my gosh. She like swept me up and was like, you're with me. My coach actually isn't here because his wife is having a baby right now, but these people are coaching me and they're going to help you anyway. So I kind of got connected with this group.
Yeah.
And from there, I knew, okay, I'm really enjoying lifting. I'm really enjoying competing. I want to get better, so I probably am going to need to find a coach. So I knew that the closest place was probably Atlanta to find a coach. So I kind of searched out a few coaches in the area. A couple of the people that had helped me at the meet, I was potentially going to work with. And my friend Pam was like, just come meet my coach. So I went out to Atlanta for the weekend and went to a couple gyms. But within 5 minutes of working with Sean, I knew he was my coach. So it was just, he gave me a couple of cues that immediately spoke to me. Like they really worked for me. And so I was like, okay, his communication style was what I needed. It was just, I knew myself enough as an athlete to recognize that the things that I needed out of a coaching environment, he was going to be able to give to me. So that's how he became my coach. Yeah.
That's how you became coach.
So he was my coach until I switched to powerlifting full time.
Yeah. Well, and how you got your powerlifting coach is probably a little different than what most people would.
Yeah.
Because we knew Stacy through the podcast.
Right.
And Stacy kept putting a bug in your ear about powerlifting.
The very first, well, I guess it was my second. She wasn't there for my first powerlifting meet because it was the second. She was very sick and dying in the hospital.
I remember that. Very sick and dying.
So the second one, glad she didn't die. The second one she was there for, and she was like, you're actually like kind of okay at powerlifting. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, if you ever wanted to just focus on that, I think you could be pretty good. And I would love to coach you. And she put the bug in my ear like a couple of times. Like, I would like to coach you. Do you remember I was going to try to beat her squat record from USAPL?
Yeah.
That was the whole story. I was going to try to beat her. And she was like, I would love to coach you to beat my squat record. And so that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah. And now she's your coach, and you're going to compete and crush all things. Right. So it was a general vibe. I mean, if she had said, I would love to coach you, and you were like, oh, if I'm going to do powerlifting, I'm probably going to pick a different coach. You know, that would have been a different story, but you really connected with it. Kind of like how I connected with my coach, Julie Jaworski, because I remember she responded to my email within like an hour or less than. Yeah. And the other two I had contacted didn't respond for a couple days. And in my mind, we'll get into this in a second, if I'm going to be a remote athlete, I kind of expect you to be in not necessarily constant like 5 minutes communication, but you know, within 12 to 24 hours, I should hear back from you.
Right.
And then that night, she and I called. We talked on the phone for an hour. And after an hour, I was like, okay, I think this is good. And then like 2 weeks later, I was in Texas.
Yes, I remember all that. That happened very quickly.
Very fast.
Yeah. You're like, so I have a coach.
And I'm going to Texas.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay with them too. Never met them on the internet. I'm going to get murdered. It's fine.
Well, right. So Stacy and I connected. I knew that her coaching style was exactly what I needed at that point in my life.
Yeah.
I needed, and to be honest, it didn't matter what she was coaching. Like she was what I needed in my life. And I make the joke that like, thank God she's not a swim coach or something. Cause like, I don't want to be a swimmer, but I might have tried it. Like she was just something that she offered to me as an athlete was what I needed at that very moment. And so without a doubt, it was like, if I'm making this switch, there's no one else that's going to coach me. Like there's literally no one else that I want to coach me. I'm either sticking with weightlifting or I'm switching to powerlifting and Stacy's my coach. Like,
Yeah.
those were the options in my mind
Yeah.
because of the connection that I had with her.
Absolutely. So if you're picking a remote coach, really go by your gut. I think
Yeah.
my gut told me that Jilly was going to be a good coach, and she has been. She's been phenomenal. I mean, I've been able to watch her club grow over the past 3 years, and she's just gotten better and better and better. And same with you, with Sean and Stacy. I think you just had that feeling, and you're like, okay,
Yep.
this is my gut feeling. I'm going to go with it.
Yep.
So let's go into a little bit of what I said before about what to expect, and let's start with what to expect from your coach. So if you hire a remote coach, there are different like tiers you can go through as an athlete. So you can either sign on to a program with the agreement that you get programming once a month. I don't agree with this type of methodology. I think your program should change week by week. I think you should have an overarching that your coach should have cycles. Your coach should be thinking these things out. They should have a plan for you, but your plan should be tweaked every week based on how you felt, how things changed.
Yeah, I actually have something to add to that. Before all of this, I did have another remote coach, my very first remote coach. And it was more along the lines of that, where it wasn't really like one-on-one coaching.
Right.
It was, I got a 12-week cycle and I didn't really get a lot of feedback on it or anything. And the programming was good, but
right. But you're not really paying for programming.
Right. I mean, while I needed programming, what I really needed was help with my technique in weightlifting, because that's the whole reason I wanted to compete in weightlifting. That's why I left CrossFit. Well, there's a few reasons I left CrossFit. One, because I never wanted to do a burpee or thruster ever again in my life.
No.
No. And I loved the Olympic lifts, but I was really bad at them. And so I wanted to get better at them. And so just to have done... like Catalyst puts out really good programs.
Yeah.
But I knew that wasn't what I needed. I needed more than just a program. I needed someone to actually have eyes on me and help me improve my technique.
Yeah. So when you're looking for a coach, make sure you understand what they're going to give you. Are they going to give you customized one-on-one programming, which means you get new programming every week, you're in constant contact with them, and they are helping you with technique? And I think some coaches will limit the amount of, it's called video analysis. You can send them a video. So they may say only 10 a week just because they have a volume of it. But as long as you're in constant contact and there is an understanding between you and the coach that you're going to get weekly programming, it's going to be on time, and that they are going to be in contact with you constantly throughout the week.
Sure.
And,
don't as much as you need.
As much as you need. So for me, I'll have good weeks and bad weeks. I'll have weeks that I talk to Jilly a lot, and then I'll have weeks she doesn't hear from me because I'm just
everything's
doing
fine.
what I need to do. Everything's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. So I think in terms of communication, I think that's really important.
Yes.
Is the frequency of the communication. And you might be an athlete who kind of wants more hands off, and that's fine.
That's totally fine.
As long as, I think just the most important thing is discussing this with your coach before you even hire them.
Set expectations.
Yeah. Set expectations for the frequency of communication, and then figure out their communication style and make sure that it jives with you. So I know for some people, so my first coach, Sean, I don't think he would at all be sad about the fact that I would say that he's hard on people. I think that he's proud of that, and I don't.
It's his style.
That's his style. He's hard, and he made me elevate myself to a level that I didn't know that I had in me.
Yeah.
Because he was kind of hard. I mean, we joked around and we had fun or whatever, but he expected a lot out of me, and I think that made me a lot better athlete. But for some people, that style of coaching might not work, or that style of communication might not work, that it might have been too much or upsetting or whatever. For me, I really liked it. I appreciated it. But you just need to make sure everyone's got a different style, and not every coach, they could be the best coach in the world, but they might not be the best coach for you.
Exactly. And I think something that I have a problem with is just confrontation in general. So if I'm talking with someone about something, usually if it's an exchange of money, so hiring a coach, I can be very timid in asking questions. Like I feel as though they are above me and I'm the peasant below, and I don't get to ask questions. I don't get to determine anything, but that's not the right mindset when you're hiring a coach. When you're hiring a coach, you're basically buying a new car. You're buying a car. And so you need to make sure that this car is going to be what you need. It's going to be able to get you where you need to go, and it understands like what you need and what you want out of this relationship.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask questions, ask tough questions.
For sure.
And really get to know this person that you're going to be trusting your goals with. I mean, if you take this seriously like we do, if you have big goals and you're handing this trust off to someone who isn't taking it seriously, you're throwing your money away, you're throwing your time away, you're wasting everything.
Right.
Yeah. So
I totally agree with the asking questions. And as a nutrition coach, like I see the coaching side of it in terms of an athlete coming and like asking questions. And I think the more questions someone asks me before they hire me, I think the better off, if we decide at the end of that they want to work with me, we usually have a fantastic relationship because I'm understanding what they need from me. They understand how I work. And if we make it past that point, then it's like we're meant to work together.
Yep. It starts on that honesty.
Right. Whereas a lot of times there are assumptions being made on both ends of so the athlete and the coach. And if those aren't, if those assumptions aren't actually talked about,
especially
you don't
in the
really
beginning.
know. Yeah, you don't really know. I might be assuming one thing and they might be assuming another thing. And so I think to just ask questions and figure things out is the most important thing. And I am never offended if someone asks me a bunch of questions. And if then after I answer all those questions, if they decide this might not be the right coach for me, like I would rather figure that out now than to get 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks down the line and things just aren't working because it wasn't
going to work from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if a coach gets offended and flustered with you by asking many questions, that's obviously not the coach for you. So consider it a blessing.
Right.
So then there's other things to keep in mind. It's not all the coach. You're the other part of the equation.
Yes.
So if you are hiring a coach thinking that this coach is going to be the end all be all, it's going to be amazing, they've coached all these other great athletes and now it's your turn, but you don't put in the work and you don't communicate and you don't send the videos, and then you try to blame the coach as in being a bad coach, you are gravely mistaken.
Yeah, you have to put in the work. You have to have your nutrition right. You have to have your recovery right. You have to be on point at your training sessions. You have to be doing your mobility work and your rehab or prehab, like all of that stuff you have to be doing. You have to do all of that work in order for their coaching to work for you.
Yeah. This is something we talk about with our Eat for Strength ladies all the time, is this honest self-evaluation. If you're pointing the finger at someone else, that if you're saying that you as my coach are making me a bad athlete, you have to remember that you have way more control into your outcome than your coach. And if you aren't doing all the things that you need to do and you're blaming the programming, you're wrong. You need to take a step back. And if you can't look at yourself and say, okay, I really could be sleeping more. 5 hours is probably enough. I probably should be stretching. And you know what? I'm under eating every day. Maybe we need to up that and then see where things go.
Yes.
So if you aren't being the 100% athlete, or as Jen Thompson say, the 10% of the 90% or whatever, if you aren't being that extra
if you
athlete,
aren't doing that extra 10%,
then it's likely not the coach. It's likely you are the problem. Now, that's not to say that there aren't bad coaches. Now, there could be a point where you are doing all these things and your recovery is on point. You're doing everything you should. You're eating enough, blah, blah, blah. And maybe the programming of that coach is just not good for your body. Like, however it's structured, your body just can't recover from it. Now, does this mean you need to go find a new coach? No, it means you need to take a step back and say, hey, coach, can we fix something? Because something's going on. I'm not questioning your programming, but my body's just feeling like shit. And a good coach will say, you know what? Let's try this,
Right. Well, because everybody's different. And so
everybody's
different. That is part of the initial process in working with a coach is kind of figuring you out and what's going to work for you.
Yes.
And so it's, I think it was back when we talked to Kimberly Walford a while ago, and she was telling us that she likes to have a lot of time to work with an athlete before meet prep so that she can figure out how the athlete responds to different things. You can't just like hire a coach for meet prep and think that like just somehow their coaching is going to magically get you, 100 kilos on your total. Like it doesn't work that way. And a lot of it is there's a lot of trial and error involved in it, which is one thing that I would say follow your coach's programming
to a T.
Yes, because there are times where I've been like, I don't know about this, but I'm going to follow it perfectly, because if I go and try to add in my own things or take something out, whatever, I'm not following it to a T. We don't then actually know what worked when it comes to meet day or testing day to figure out like, well, did it work because you added in these other things, or did it not work because you added in these other things, or you took things out? So follow it perfectly, even if you have questions about it. And then once you go through a testing phase or after a meet, then you can reassess it.
Yeah, it's a relationship. Much like when you find you're in a relationship with someone, you're not all of a sudden like married and everything's great and you've figured out all your problems and you're whatever. You have to work through all these things together. And if you always think of your coach as trying to like get at you or trying to bring you down and bring down the world, then you're the problem. You need to recognize that you and your coach are a team, and together you guys are going to get you to your goals.
That makes me sad to think that anyone would think that their coach was like out to get them.
Well, people like to play the victim card. They like to say, well, my coach is just doing this because he or she doesn't want me to be the greatest, because then I'll beat out this person. And really this person complaining is just not doing what they need to do.
So much drama that I just don't understand. Just focus on yourself. Do what you have to do.
Well, there wouldn't be reality TV if that was the case. We wouldn't have Kardashians.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah. So your coach should be one of your biggest assets in your training, and you should feel that way. And if you don't feel that way, you need to figure out, is the problem you or is the problem your coach?
Yes. And I think that could be a different episode. I think this is just finding a coach.
Yeah.
Like, go on USAW or USAPL.com or USPA.com.
USPA.net.
Sorry. Find someone, maybe hopefully in your area. If not, try to find someone who's maybe even 4 or 5 hours from you that maybe once in a while you could go drive to. Reach out to them. Say, hey, I'm looking for a coach. I want to learn more about your coaching style. I want to learn more about how you do things, what your athletes are like. Like, you want to know everything about what you're getting into, and see how they respond. See how they respond to questions. See how quickly they respond.
Right.
See how detailed of a response you get, because depending on how they respond is going to tell you how they're going to be in the future. If they give you really short answers, that's probably what you're going to get. Not saying that that's bad.
Yeah.
But if that's not what you need, if you need very long explanations, you're going to want to find someone else who's going to give you those explanations.
For sure.
And then once you, yes?
I want to get into talking about what happens on meet day when you have a remote coach.
Okay.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think I've had one meet without it, and I just commandeered you.
So, right. So you fly, so that means that you fly to Texas for your meets because your coach is in Texas.
Every meet I fly to Texas. Yeah.
Right. So you don't do local meet. Well, we don't have super local meets, but we have regionally local meets. Right. And
4
so
to 6 hour drive.
right. No, we did Atlanta 2 hours.
2 to
We
6
did that.
hours.
Yeah. But yeah, so I counted attempts for you at that meet.
Yes, you did.
Um,
And I did your thing for your first powerlifting meet.
you did. Is that it? I
Yeah,
feel
that was
there's
it.
been more.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so that is one thing that is challenging
Yeah.
if we're going to talk about challenges of a remote coach. That's one thing you need to be prepared for.
Yes.
If your coach is in the same state as you and will be at the meets that you plan on going to, then that might be a really good option. Like, then it's not an issue. Like, hey, do you plan on being at most of the meets in the state, or can you travel to meets that they are planning on being at? But if we're talking like you're in Florida and your coach is in Washington State, you got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so whether there is a network of people that you can connect with that can help you out on meet day, whether it's some training partners that can help you out on meet day, it's something that needs to be considered, because
Absolutely.
it's definitely, I've done one meet. Okay, other than the first 2 meets where I didn't know what in the hell I was doing, I've done one meet without a coach since I actually have had coaches at meets now. And it was challenging. It was really challenging, and it made me not want to ever do that again. It just wasn't the same. I'm spoiled now that I've got either you, or I had Stacy help me before she was even my coach in powerlifting. I've always had people that could help me for the last 3 years or so. And so it's a challenge, and it's something to consider, which is another reason why I say, if you can hire a local coach, do it, because they're going to be able to help you on meet day. Now, if you don't care about competing, then that's not even a factor.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. And this is why I think it's really important to see how your coach is. Like, if coaching is your coach's whole world, like my coach, all she does, her business is coaching. Like, it's not a part-time gig, it's a full-time gig. So I know if I'm going to like some of the sub-national, like they're national but they're not really national meets,
like AO,
like the AO series for us weightlifters, I know she's gonna be there. And so I don't have to worry about that. Like, she will fly, she will pay the money to fly. I don't have to pay to fly her out to these things to coach me, because that's just what we contractually agree.
Right. And she's got so many athletes that are there.
The way that we pay for it is like, we volunteer to help the other athletes, so that way we work as a big team. So, but anyway, Kristen's very right about this. If your coach isn't willing to travel to wherever it is, and you can't work out some agreement like meet halfway or whatever, that's going to be something you consider. And honestly, if you have a really competent training partner who gets powerlifting or who gets weightlifting, doing that by yourself, doing that with just a training partner, isn't that horrible.
It's not.
No. When I did the one meet with Kristen counting my cards, it was basically like I had Jilly.
I think it was more stressful for me than you, because I had never counted cards for anyone before. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But it went well.
I trusted you, and it was fine. And just like when you did your first powerlifting meet, you just kind of gave up control and just...
That's the thing, is you have to have someone that you feel that you can trust.
Yes.
So hopefully your coach is someone you can trust. If not, we have an issue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, someone that you can fully trust in that moment, because it's really nice having not having to think about things on meet day. All you have to do is just show up and lift.
All you have to do is show up and lift. Yeah. The other challenge is technique, as we said before. If you're in Olympic weightlifting, the technique part is like 90% of the lifting. So if you, like I said before, if you aren't sending videos to your coach, and if your coach isn't good about responding to technique videos, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time, because that's 90% of Olympic weightlifting is getting that technical help.
For sure. And not a week later, like when you've already done the movement 100 times wrong.
Yeah, like 24 to 48 hours, I would say is pretty good, just depending on how many athletes they have. Right. Same with powerlifting. Like, if you're just learning how to bench, like, you need someone who's going to get to you before you go to your next bench day and fix whatever it is you need fixed. And that's where in person versus remote is just so subpar. I know when I go visit Jilly and them in Texas, when I'm lifting, I can hear from across the room, Mary, stay in your toes. And I'm like, oh, wow, that would be so nice if it was at home, because otherwise I'd take the video, send the video, wait 12 hours, and she'd say, oh, you should stay in your toes. Cool. 2 days later, I'll go lift that lift, stay in my toe, you know. It's just something to think about. Like, at this point, though, I mean, even if a coach moved into the area, I'm not going to leave my coach, because at this point, 2.5 years in, I have created a really good relationship. She knows my training well. She knows my body well. I know her coaching style.
Yeah, which goes back to, I think, where if things aren't quite working right, then you don't necessarily need to ditch the coach. You just need to work things out sometimes.
Yep.
Because I think that the amount of time that you have with the coach, if things are going relatively well, they understand your body. They know how you work. They know your movement faults. They have them prioritized in order, which I didn't know.
They do.
They do. They're like, okay, first we're going to work on this, and not even going to tell her about these other 10 things. First, we're just going to fix this one thing. And so you have this established relationship with them. And I think that is something that's so important and awesome and wonderful. And if issues arise, trying to work through that rather than just like coach hopping. Yeah. Because I think that you never really get to the root of issues that way. Yeah.
If your coach is being mean to you, just flat out mean, find a new coach. But generally, like, if you have a decent coach and things aren't working, you need to give it your best effort to make it work, because it could just be a communication issue. It could just be that their programming is just a little bit off for your body and you guys just need to adjust. The more you can culminate that relationship, the better things are going to be. And if you just start leaving coaches and coach hopping, coaches talk, man. And if you show up to a different coach and they're like, oh, you left so-and-so, though, kind of abruptly and kind of rudely, like, that's going to get around and you're going to find yourself coach less.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Facts.
So I guess to recap, find you a coach on one of the organization's websites, talk to them, get a good feel. If you can get them on the phone, that's ideal.
If you can talk to some of their athletes too, I think would be huge, and just be like, what is their style like? What can I expect? Hear it from people. And if they don't want you talking to their athletes, that's
wrong. Well, don't even tell them that you're talking to their athletes. Just DM on Instagram. Like,
sure,
this is how it works. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. As we said before, don't be afraid to ask questions. How does their coaching work? Like, what's their communication style? Ask as many questions as you need to. And then once you've found a coach and you've established that relationship, do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah, if you don't do the work, you're wasting your time, and you're wasting their time, and you're wasting your money.
We talk about this with nutrition. You can't just hire someone and have it fix all your problems.
No.
You can't just throw money at, quote unquote, the problem.
Right.
So you've got it right.
Yeah.
You got to do the work.
Yes.
Follow the plan.
Follow the plan. And if the plan doesn't work, that just means you either need to tweak it with your coach. And if you tweak it and it still doesn't work, and then they're being reluctant to fix it, then we can find a new coach. But try your best to make things work. Don't assume it's going to be a negative thing. Right. I think that's it for remote coaching. If you guys have questions, if we didn't address everything that you wanted to know about remote coaching, send us an email. We're happy to get back. Or on Thursdays on our Facebook group page, which is now called Female Strength Academy. Mm-hmm. It was called Women in Strength -Athlete Resource, but now it's Female Strength Academy. Every Thursday, we're going to post up a call for questions, and then that Thursday we'll be able to answer them. So if you have a question, that would be the quickest way to get a good response from us in the Facebook group page. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon. Our patrons get to give us input into our episodes and how we are moving forward with the podcast and with our other endeavors, which you'll hear about very soon. And I think that's it. We love you guys, and we will look forward to talking to you next time. Bye.